Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation. Today we've got a different sort of episode. We're going to talk about a band that may not be well known, but should be well known. And the band is called Sea Hags. And there's the debut on Rock Candy. But this gentleman here is part of the Sea Hags story, and he was actually the original drummer, Greg Langston. A live album about to be released called Dead and Gone comes out on September 12th, which is a live album in front of 60 fans playing the Sea Hag songs. Greg Langston, welcome to Rock Daydream Nation. How are you today?
Well, thank you very much, Peter. I'm doing just fine. I'm looking forward to sharing some stories.
Absolutely, good to have you on the show and getting you to tell your story. So, firstly, were you surprised when you heard that Liberation Hall, the record label, were releasing this live set? Did that come out of the blue for you?
Not at all. I've had a number of labels after some of the old Sea Hag material, and I've worked with Arnie from Liberation Hall, putting out another CD from one of my old punk rock bands called No Alternative, and um, and Arnie is great to work with. I received a record contract from another label, and my longtime friend and music lawyer told me, tear it up, go with Arnie. So I gave Arnie a call about this one, and he was very excited to to release it, and he's a great person to work with.
Absolutely. I've done a lot of interviews on behalf of the label, and he puts some really good curated material. So check it out. What was your first impression listening to this set after all this time?
Well, I got to tell you, I have mixed feelings about it. Sometimes, well, when you're putting together music for a record label, what you do is you listen to everything lots and lots and lots of times. And there's times when I just can't listen to any of this music anymore because it happened 40 years in the past. And then there's times that I listen to it with very fresh ears, and it brings back the memories of the day. It brings back a lot of thoughts about what happened with the group. Mostly good. Most of the stuff that we did in my memories are really wonderful playing with this band. So I would just say that it's a little bit mixture of both.
Absolutely. Well, you are a big part of this story, and we will get to that. So, just going back to this actual release, what do you remember from the day and from the set? Have you got any memories that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, actually, it was a really joyous day because we had worked in that studio before, and we were familiar with Sylvia Massey and Gary Hobish, who were behind the controls, and both of those two are just top notch in the field, and so we're very comfortable working with the two of them. So we go in and we set up and we do a little sound check, and then the audience starts coming in. And by this time, we had quite a quite a following here in San Francisco, and we were just packing the clubs. So the audience was invited to basically join the party in the early afternoon, and we had a it's not an invited crowd. Anybody could go, but I think that the 60 people or so that came were really, really big fans. So we had a lot of friends there. They were encouraged to clap and cheer on, and I mean, not like they wouldn't anyway, but I think that they knew they were being recorded. So we had an enthusiastic audience. I had a great time. I just remember, you're performing there. You've got your headphones on, and uh, we were very, very well rehearsed by that time. We had a lot of shows under our belt, and it was kind of magic playing that day for the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. Was it a dry crowd? There was no beer, booze. Was there any?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Was there a lot of pogoing? A lot of
No,
raucousness? Yeah.
this in my old punk days we had people that would dance like that, but no, it was mostly standing and clapping and dancing around to what we were doing. And I've
Yeah.
always I've always gotten a lot of energy from an audience.
Yep.
If people are giving it to me, I'm going to give it back to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I navigate through our chat, it's interesting because with this band, I can see elements of metal, hard rock, and punk. So there's a little bit of a crossover between left and right. So you've been in a lot of bands, and Tux to Moon, No Alternative, Fade to Black. What made the Sea Hags so special out of those bands?
Oh, that's probably pretty easy to answer. You know, Ron and Chris they were a little younger than I was, and they were pretty impressed with my history. Even at 1985, I'd been playing in the clubs for about 6 years. I'd played with some pretty well-known bands, at least around here. I could see right away once I started playing with them, even when it was rough, people came. People started to come, and they were younger and attractive guys, and we had a lot of girls coming to the shows. And I could tell at that time that they really had something. Not only that, is even with all the music that I'd played in the past, I had played, in high school around that time in the mid 70s. I'd play to everything. I'd play to Humble Pie, I'd play to Mountain, I'd play to hard rock, I'd play to Bowie, Sparks, all this stuff, the headphones at home. And once we started playing, I could see that I was very, very comfortable playing a slower type of music than the punk rock that I had been playing. The other thing is, people don't necessarily realize this, because during the time with the Sea Hags, we started off basically just playing punk shows. And, we'd play with the Descendants, Husker Du, Flipper many, many times. Just we played with everybody, and it was almost always punk shows. And what surprised me at the time was, especially in the early days of punk rock, we had completely gotten away from this older style of music. And when we started playing this in front of the punk rock crowds, I wasn't sure how they were going to take it. I thought, oh, they're going to, they might start throwing stuff at us. But they didn't. And I think that there are a lot of punk rockers who kind of missed some of this music, or I think it was ready for it to come around. I sold a lot of my records from that once punk rock started. I sold like my Blue Oyster Cult records and just stuff, and I ended up having to find them all and buy them back because I wanted them. I realized that I liked it. It wasn't embarrassing to like that stuff anymore.
Yeah, look, I know the feeling, Greg. I think we all go through that phase when you're in 18, 19. A lot of the older music is not cool, but when you get older, that music is cool. So you go like a full circle, and you just want to embrace it all, don't you?
Oh, I do. I do. I'm every day is a learning experience for me in music.
Mm.
And when I have to really buckle down and learn a set of songs or learn new songs, um, sometimes I'd rather be listening to some music that I'm discovering. So,
Absolutely. It's always a discovery every day. So, Dead Kennedys, Social Distortion, Johnny Thunder, Circle Jerks, X, Suicidal Tendencies, Motorhead supported those bands. Wow. Any wild memories that you want to share with the audience? Any particular gig or, something that sticks out to you all
um,
these years later?
you got to remember, this is like 40 years ago.
I
So,
know. But there would have been some
well,
wild shows like Dead Kennedys. They were at the top of their game in that era, weren't they? Absolutely.
They absolutely were at the top of their game,
Slayed it.
and you know, being in the punk scene, I know all those guys, you know,
Yep.
but at that time, they were truly at the top of their game, and yeah, we played with them a number of times. I don't know. There was a show that we played with the Ramones at the Stone in San Francisco, and James Hetfield came by from Metallica, and I remember just hanging out with both of them, having a wonderful conversation. Just little things like that. You know,
A lot of camaraderie between the bands, right?
there really was with this
Yeah.
group. People, uh, I've been in other groups where you'll be on a show and the other groups will just hide in the dressing room and you don't even talk to them. The Toy Dolls were like that. You know the Toy Dolls,
Yeah.
British
Yep.
group.
Yep.
They just hid. I remember them just hiding in their dressing room every time, and you know, not talking to anybody. We played with the Cramps a number of times. They were one of my favorites at the time.
Wonderful
We did
band. Wonderful
we did
band.
shows. Yeah, I played with in a band with Brian Gregory, the guitarist, the early guitarist for.
Yeah.
And that was one thing that Chris from the Sea Hags really liked. He goes, "You got to play with Brian Gregory," and I'm like, "Yeah."
So cool. That band had just so much of an aura. I saw them in '86, and that changed my life as an 18-year-old. But that's a whole different show, I think. But look, it's really funny. Like San Francisco, to me, as an outsider, we looked in Sydney with envy because we had a really healthy live scene, and there was punk, metal, pub rock. But something about San Francisco was quite exotic because it seemed to be so fertile regarding bands. Like you had the punk scene, but you also had the scene, the Bay City thrash scene, with all these up and coming metal bands like Metallica, Exodus, etc., etc. Were you starting to notice the audiences were becoming a bit cross genre? You'd see a lot of more metalheads coming to your shows and you know, that sort of thing. Like you're saying, James Hetfield at a Ramones concert, you know?
Well, sort of. Uh, there was a club called Ruthie's Inn in, I guess that's in Berkeley. That turned into pretty much a big metal hangout. And unless there was a punk show there, I wasn't going there, and the metal people weren't really coming to our shows. Now, when there was kind of a cross section of some metalheads, it would be because we were playing with one of those groups. We'd play with Jet Boy and Vane, and L.A. Guns was another one. But in general, it was still kind of a separation between the punks and the metalheads. Now we did play with Motorhead, and that was great. And Motorhead is in some ways a crossover group too, because even by 1985, there was still the you know, metalheads against the punks kind of thing going on, and and I think that one of the things that the Sea Hags did was kind of help bring the two groups together a little bit. And now, I mean, punks and metalheads, you know, pretty much all get along. So
Absolutely. That's really interesting because I've interviewed a few of the those folks in that era, and they do cite a lot of the punk bands as an influence. Like I interviewed Testament, and they cited GBH, and they said that you know, even the vocal intonations of the singer was based on a lot of the punk and, you know, GBH, Metallica and the Misfits. So no, it's interesting to hear that it wasn't quite what I imagined it to be, a bit more of a cross type thing, and that took a little bit longer.
well, I have an example for you. When we were working in the studio with Kirk Hammett, um, Metallica played this big show in Oakland at one of the big places, Henry J. Kaiser Center. And the Sea Hags were playing in Alameda, which is fairly close. And Metallica had finished their show, and they came to our show. They left their big show and just came, and all of a sudden, you know, out in the audience, we see the four guys in Metallica, you know, watching us. So the night ended up that James and Lars came to our house. But what happened was Kirk at one point said, you know, we don't really know punk rock. And I'd like you to make me a cassette of your favorite punk music. So I said, well, Kirk, I'll do that, but you got to get me a Metallica t-shirt. I wasn't just going to make him something. And, you know, at least for me, I wasn't completely, you know, starstruck by this band. I mean, they were just other musicians to me. So long story short, I've got two things going on here. Well, James and Lars were at my house, and they spent the whole night going through my punk singles and listening to records all night, like way too late. You know, I had to get up the next day, and oh boy. So anyway, I made this tape for Kirk Hammett, and lo and behold, they would listen to it when they were on the road, and they would play this, and I think I helped get the guys in Metallica a little up to speed on some of the punk stuff, because they put out this record called Garage Days Revisited, and when it came out as a 2-record set, they had a song on there by the Anti-Nowhere League called So What. And that was one of the songs that I'd put on that cassette. So, you know, I don't know if it's a coincidence, but I wouldn't be surprised if they recorded that song, because I gave them a little punk rock history lesson. So.
Well, Greg Langston, you're a music influencer, because I think the narrative is there that they like punk and all that sort of thing, but you're a big part of the story, maybe indirectly, hey?
Well, they didn't know this stuff. I mean, if you listen to, they were listening to some fairly obscure metal stuff, which is pretty cool, which I caught up on all of that stuff later on myself. But as a genre in general, you know, I lean more towards you know, listening to old psychedelic music, or you know, stuff like that. But not to say that I don't have you know, some metal stuff, and I've certainly given it all a try. If you went in my record collection, you'd find Venom and Slayer and Possessed and groups like that. But I really don't pull those out very much and listen to them.
Yeah, understand. Let's talk about the musicology of the band. So just go back again. What was your first impression of that first jam session? Can you describe it? Did you pick up that there was a chemistry, or was it a bit more of a work in progress?
No, it was a chemistry. It was absolutely chemistry. I think Ron and Chris had a few songs worked out, maybe not a full set, but I could tell right away that when I sat down behind the drums that I could do this, and I could do it well. I was playing with Fade to Black at the time, and I invited the guys down to our studio on a night when nobody was there, and we just went ahead and rocked out on a few of these songs, and I could tell that they were fun. It was just fun stuff, and it was music that I was really comfortable with. And Ron's personality as well is such where he could almost talk anybody into anything. It's just he had this certain personality, and for better or for worse, I can tell you, I'm sure he talked our way into the Chrysalis record contract too, because he was a talker, and he convinced me that this is what I needed to do, and I think he was right. It was sad to leave Fade to Black. The people in that band are still best of friends, and I see them whenever I'm down in Palm Springs or they come up here. But the chemistry was immediate, and I had some obligations with Fade to Black, but we started playing immediately. Well, you know, as soon as there was a set, And there's a dumpy little club across from the rehearsal studio called The Sound of Music. And anybody in San Francisco will tell you that was the lowest of the low, absolute dive places that anybody could play. They had a lot of punk shows there. And we got our start basically by carrying our gear across the street and playing the absolute worst club in San Francisco. I mean, it was a really bad neighborhood. Bad things would happen. People hanging out in the street, and I could go on with that place. But I think that our first 4 shows were there, and then we started playing I think the 4th show was a big show at the Dead Kennedys, headlining, and Subhumans and a bunch of other bands.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kirk Hammett came in to produce the EP for the band, The Hag of the Sea. Is it true that James Hetfield wanted to poo-poo the idea of getting Kirk involved? He was very protective that of band members doing extracurricular activities. Is that true or false?
That's something I wouldn't know anything about. I think we met Kirk, and I met him in the studio before I met the other guys, and so that's something I wouldn't know. To clarify something, The Hag of the Sea was originally a 6 or 7 song demo, and then when I put together a first compilation, I added the 2 tracks that Kirk worked on plus a couple. So The Hag of the Sea really was a shorter version, but I did a sort of self-produced CD, basically just for friends who wanted it. But have you heard The Hag of the Sea?
No, I'm going to check that out.
If you can find it, that's actually some of my very favorite stuff too.
Is that like an Uber collector's item if you see it?
Well, The Hag of the Sea was originally a cassette that I copied and sold out of the back of my car at every show, and it would just sell immediately. I'd make 10 copies, I'd make 20 copies and sell them for $3 a piece, and they would sell. And then eventually, when all was said and done, I put together a CD and with some artwork, and I think there's 100 or 200 copies, and they're all gone. I think I only have 1 or 2 myself. But that was The Hag of the Sea, plus the 2 songs that Kirk was involved with, plus a couple from another session. And I think that other session might have been when we were doing demos for Chrysalis. Just I wanted to just fill out the CD with some pretty good stuff. So
absolutely. Yeah. With Chrysalis, you got signed to Chrysalis in December '87, but were there any other record companies sniffing around, or was it primarily just Chrysalis?
I think that there was negotiations with other ones. What happened was we had a couple of managers, and we had a lawyer, and they did all the negotiations. I remember doing a showcase for Rick Rubin. We flew out to New York, and it just turned out that it just didn't seem like a good match, but we did get to hang out with Rick Rubin and played in New York at the Pyramid Club. As a matter of fact, the cover of that of the CD or recording that's coming out, I hope it comes out on vinyl. That's in front of the Pyramid Club. Earlier in the day before we were to meet Rick Rubin and play a showcase for him.
When you say not a good fit, did he like you, or was it you liked him, and was it like mutual, or that there wasn't?
I think so. Fit? I think so. I mean, we are talking 40 years ago.
I know. I'm trying to pick your memory cells here, but yeah. What was he like? Because he comes across as a very laid back sort of sort of Zen type of guy. Was he like that in the day? From that
I think he was. You know what I said about Ron and how he could talk his way into anything. You know, I let Ron and Chris spend most of the time with them. I just, you know, I can't really vouch for any more than that. And whatever happens, my memory is of that night is just not there anymore.
Yeah, understand. So the record deal with Chrysalis, was that what, one album, or was it multiple albums to your recollection?
I think that it was one album with the option that they could pick up a second one. And
Right.
you know, I was asked to leave during pre-production,
Yes.
and what happened was we were. If you want me to be frank about things, there was
Absolutely.
well by this time the other two members were really getting into hard drugs, and you know I just didn't do that kind of thing, and we were down there to work on pre-production, and I'd really have to just press them to keep working on it, and not a whole lot of progress was going on. We'd go to the studio probably at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were supposed to be working on stuff all afternoon. I just couldn't get these guys to do it. Well, Chrysalis, whoever we were working with there, probably saw stuff wasn't going on, and they decided that they wanted to restructure the group. They brought in another drummer to play my parts, and I wasn't really okay with that. But there was a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money involved in this deal. I mean, we got a crazy amount of money to make this record, and most of it went to the producer, Mike Klink.
Yeah.
He was pretty much on the top of his game because he'd just done Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. And so they didn't think Ron's guitar parts they didn't think Ron could really do his guitar parts that well. So they brought in another guitarist, and it turns out that instead of just having these guys as session musicians, unbeknownst to me, they decided that they were going to go with these two guys, and I was told to pack up my stuff and go home. And I was pretty upset about it. And I didn't want to go out to the clubs and see people. And I was kind of embarrassed, or I didn't know what to think. So that's when I took a month off and went to Sydney, Australia, and spent some time there to just kind of clear my head. And I had a wonderful time, and I came back about a month later and figured out what I wanted to do. So.
Absolutely. So with this whole thing happening, did you go to the guys and go, what's happening? Come on, we've got the chemistry here. Did you try to confront the other lads in the band and say, what's happening?
No, I think they were pretty, they sort of had their minds made up, or Chrysalis made up their minds for them. And I think they just didn't want to deal with it. So I didn't talk to either of them for quite a long time.
No confrontation. It just happened outside that. Okay.
No, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a yelling and screaming person, or there wasn't a whole lot I could really say. There's so much money being thrown around at this project. Now, I was speaking to somebody the other day that is familiar with the Liberation Hall recording, and he loves it, but he thinks that the album sounds a little bit more like a generic Los Angeles band of that era.
So you've never heard this album?
No, I've heard it. I've listened to it a number of times.
What's your opinion of it?
It's cleaned up. It takes away a lot of the the raw edge that we had. Um, I think that this is what Ron was really after. He was after slick record. Um, I, I think it's just to me sounds kind of like a generic rock album from 1989, and it I think some of the magic is missing from it. The arrangements are pretty darn close to the way that we ever did things, but Mike Klink changed a couple things around, and he changed the title of Love Kills to Under the Night Stars, and the beginning of Bunkbed Creek is and Mood for Love. Basically, the two go together, and it was one song. So I mean, a couple things were switched around that much. Now, Rock Candy contacted me at one point, and I provided them with a couple of alternate tracks, and those are indeed from the Hag of the Sea demo. And I was kind of hoping they'd use a couple of tracks that weren't on the record, but at least finally, after all this time, I'm on that record.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And you're very much a part of the story.
well, since 1985 to 1988, and I don't know, they lasted a couple more years, but I think I played the bulk of the shows. That's for sure. Now, one thing about that record is Rick Griffin, the poster artist, did the artwork, and he's an amazing San Francisco poster artist. Now you wouldn't know it by looking at that cover, but he did some iconic San Francisco posters like the Jimi Hendrix Flying Eyeball and the Grateful Dead poster, the Skull and Roses. And, it doesn't look real representative of his work, but I'm really proud to at least have two songs on something that Rick Griffin did the artwork for. I'm a big collector of San Francisco poster art as well. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
The album tanked, so I think it hit 150 in the Billboard charts, and then it just sank like a stone. What's your personal theory, as to why it just didn't go? That didn't break. Have you got a personal view on that?
Well, when the album came out, I was moving forward. I got back together with No Alternative in 1989, and we started doing shows, and I wasn't really looking back. I didn't really know how the album was doing. I know that those guys were doing some traveling and some touring. Later on, from our old road manager, I found out that not all was happy with the traveling and tours and everything. But as far as it not selling, I really think that what had happened was Chrysalis probably lost a little bit of interest when they saw what was going on behind the scenes with the two members and their drug use and everything. I was informed at one point that Chrysalis came back and said, okay, you got some more songs for us for a second album? And they hadn't done anything. They hadn't really put anything else together. Chris tried to put some things together on his own without Ron, and the chemistry just wasn't there. So I think they got dropped pretty fast. And I had some pretty strong feelings about those two guys not sticking up for me and not keeping me with the group. But before Chris passed away, at least we'd made peace. He asked if I could play more music with him, which I actually turned it down. And then a number of years later, Ron and I got together for 3 reunion shows with different bass players, and it was pretty much a disaster, I gotta say. I wanted it to be I wanted it to be good, but um, I was I had a little daughter who was young, and so I could go to practice, and Ron would want me to drive him around and pick up amplifiers and hang out like we used to in the old days. And I was like, no, I got to go home and see my daughter. He just kind of didn't get that there was progression in and things. So, it's I don't know where he is right now. I tried very hard to find him because this project, I'd spent 2 years looking for him. Um, Arnie from Liberation Hall was probably wondering what was going on, but really I was just trying to get his okay. And I'd been working with our old lawyer, and he said, you should just go for it, and I'll take care of things if there's a problem. And I said, if there's any money, Ron can have it. I don't need any money. He probably needs money. So if there is, if it sells and we make some money, hey, I'm hanging on to it for him.
Well, in the off chance Ron's looking at this, there's a guy here that'd like to see you, talk to you. Just, message me and I'll put him in.
Ron.
You never know.
Come on, Ron. Show yourself.
Look, yeah, some things are sometimes better left in the day, aren't they? They, reunions, they don't always work, do they?
Well, that one didn't. They can work. And they can be really good. I mean, right now I'm playing with some groups that, everyone's around my age, and some of these groups were together, back in the early days. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. And
absolutely. I do want to touch upon that because you played with 30 bands of various styles.
About 40, I think.
Okay, I was looking at some press releases, so it's gone up. Is it a challenge for you as a drummer to shapeshift between genres? I'm playing in this style of music tonight, and then another band I've got to play in a different style of music. Is it a bit of a mental challenge that you've got to click into that sort of groove?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, over the years, if you look at my music history, with Tuxedo Moon, I would play fairly minimal drumming, and except for the song "No Tears," which is sort of a tribal song, which I'm beginning to think that song is like the Mustang Sally of the punk era around here. But I've played rockabilly, I played country, I played goth styled rock, 80s styled rock with some bands, and more punk bands. The only thing that I played with the Offs, who had a reggae influence. So a lot of different things, and just whatever I'm playing, I just adapt to it. It's just the way it works.
Absolutely.
I really enjoy being with a number of groups, because then I'm not playing the same 15 songs each time we go to practice, and then the new songs just kind of come forward. But at this point, I'm playing, I don't know, 70 or 80 songs with various people. So it's a good thing. Well, because I love music. I just love music of all kinds, really. Yeah. Not a big opera fan, though.
Either am I. Look, anything I can do to keep a lot of this music alive, that's what Rock Daydream Nation's all about. So, folks, Dead and Gone, it comes out on September the 12th. Greg's on it, and it's I've listened to it, and it's really raw and grungy, and it's the Sea Hags as they should be. So it's an absolute pleasure, Greg, to talk to you. Really interesting, and I'd love to have a chat with you in the future. It'd be really great. Good to talk to you. So please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation, folks. Tell us what you think of the Sea Hags. Your comments. We love reading your comments. But one thing's for sure, I'll be doing more shows coming soon. All the best, and thank you very much, Greg, for your time. It's been a joy. Thanks,
Well,
mate.
thank you very much, and best wishes to you
Thank
and
you.
your audience.
Absolutely.